The setup is the 13th episode of the second season of Parks and Rec. This is directed by Troy Miller, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I talk about various aspects of the episode and share some thoughts. Usually with Parks and Rec, I'll go through things chronologically, but with this one, I've grouped my notes by part of the narrative, and that just seems to make the most sense structurally. And there are several aspects to the narrative, and honestly, I think I liked all of it. Some bits more than others. Part of it focuses on the fact that Anne has set Leslie up with an MRI technician called Chris. He's played by Will Arnett, and he's not a very likeable person, but I will be honest, it sounds like an awesome date. Probably not, I don't know if it will be legal, but he ends up giving Leslie a free MRI. Honestly, if somebody wants to show me an MRI and how it works on a date, I'd be pretty excited about that. Leslie, not quite as thrilling, and also Chris just has a very uncomfortable attitude, and it was funny, but in Leslie's shoes it would definitely feel really awkward. This actually happens a little bit after, in the beginning of the episode, Leslie met with Anne's friend Justin, who happens to be a lawyer. He's played by Justin Theroux, and she doesn't set Leslie up on a date with Justin, and Mark questions this. They settle down at night to watch Marley and Me, and Mark asks Anne, why didn't you set Leslie up with Justin? And Anne basically explains that Justin's a really good friend. She doesn't want Leslie to treat him as just a rebound, which is fair enough. I can understand that. But the way she's talking about Justin definitely makes it seem like he's really important to her. But since he's not necessarily in her life every day, it kind of feels like she wishes he was. And Mark starts to get concerned about this, to the point where he goes to talk to Andy. If that's not desperation, I don't know what is. But Andy actually had a really good point, and Andy went and spoke to Anne and explained to her, every time you talked about Justin, I didn't feel very important. And I can see that being the case. I'm not saying Andy was perfect, but at the same time, if you are going to talk about somebody you might potentially have a romantic interest in, you definitely need to be careful about how you speak about that person, because it might make the other person you're in an actual relationship with feel uncomfortable, and this is what we get here. I'm not a huge fan of Anne and Mark in general. I just find their relationship to be really boring most of the time. But in this episode, I thought we had some pretty good takeaways from that. And ultimately, Anne ends up setting Leslie up with Justin anyway. So all's well that ends well there. And then we have some character development with... Well, I'll tell you with who in a moment. Ron wants to get an assistant. He's always been allowed an assistant, but thought it was a waste of money. And unfortunately, the general public are now allowed to visit him and complain about things. And we have this really funny montage. I wish it had been a little bit longer. I think we could have got a little bit more comedy out of that. But we get a couple of clips of people from the general public coming to his office and complaining about goodness knows what, too much snow in the parks, and somebody went to a pottery class and their pot wasn't good, so they complained about it, and Ron wants an assistant. So throughout the episode, Tom is interviewing people. They're quite fun scenes, I quite like them, and April ends up getting the position. I think, now maybe I'm reading this the wrong way, but I think she wanted that position because her internship is almost up. At least I assume it is, because they said she's been there for 10 months. I assume it's a 1-year internship. And also because I think she likes Andy. And I have no idea if or what is going to happen there. But I'm certainly sure that's why she went for the position. And of course she got it. And I think now I'm going to see value in the character. Because up until this point, honestly, April's done nothing. April, as an intern, doesn't have a lot to do. But now, if she is Ron's assistant, I feel like she's more part of the fold. She's going to have more to do. She'll have more reason to interact with people. So I like that we're moving a step forward with the character. So we'll see what happens there. Also, she did say, if I'm going to be here, I might as well get paid for it. Does that mean she took a 1-year internship and hasn't been paid? Because that shouldn't be legal. But aside from that, I'm glad that she's got a step forward, and It's not a bad episode. Everything about it worked really well. The setup is ultimately a pretty decent episode of Parks and Rec, and I'm pleased to say I'm really enjoying the show. It took me quite a while to get into the show, but now I'm at the point where an episode ends, and I'm genuinely looking forward to the next one. Looking forward to finding out what the rest of this season has in store.